John Fetterman. Yep, we are talking about him today, one of the biggest political flip-flops that I have seen in my entire life, going from this progressive darling to now a MAGA bootlicker, and it's looking more and more like that choice is going to cost Fetterman everything.
Look at how low he has fallen down to negative 40 points. He's down there with the Titanic.
Over a 100-point loss in just a few years' time. The guy has completely torched his reputation. All the goodwill he generated is now gone. And yet, all the while, Graham Platner out in Maine is running a pretty similar campaign to the one we saw Fetterman run back in 2022. He's kind of a John Fetterman-style candidate, but can we trust him? Is he genuine in his beliefs, or is he another faker like Fetterman? But we'll get to that a little bit later. First, we have to take a look at this loss in popularity for Fetterman, just showing that this pivot to the right is a cataclysmic mistake for any Democrat who may be thinking about doing so.
This is an 108-point swing. Very good mathematics here.
I was honestly thinking, is that even possible? All right.
There is basically no doubt in my mind that Fetterman decides to run for re-election as his Democrat. He will face a primary challenge, and it will be a very competitive one.
This just goes to show you that John Fetterman is living proof that having brain damage does indeed make you a conservative. If you know, you know. The guy used to have all of these progressive policies, and he was so damn popular on a national level. I remember liking the guy out here in Nevada and California on the West Coast. He's in Pennsylvania, and I was like, yeah, this guy rocks, right? And so many people had this energy behind him. Just take a look at this moment during his victory speech back in 2022, and let's see if it tracks with how people feel about him now. Ooh, yeah, yikes. Ooh, yeah, no, that whole belief in the guy has quickly gone down the drain, I would say. And ever since the ogre has changed his views, there is now apparently this coordinated effort by the Republican Party in the Senate to flip Fetterman's party affiliation from Democrat to Republican. Now, he said that he's not interested in doing that, saying that I'm not changing and, you know, I'm a Democrat and I'm staying one. However, he's not opposed to the idea of, you know, maybe potentially dropping the Democrat from his name and going as an independent, because one Republican senior operative said recently that they brought up the idea of John Fetterman becoming an independent, and he neither rejected the idea nor accepted it. So we'll have to wait and see there. But he does say at the end of this interview he'd be, quote, a shitty Republican. Yeah, but you're also a shitty Democrat too, John. So do us all a favor and just fuck off back to the swamp where you came from. And you know what? I've heard that they're lovely this time of year, and you might even find a talking donkey. So, you know, who knows? The guy just through and through has been totally captured by the GOP, right? It's even, according to his political reporting, that he even, like, spends more time with Republicans. It says that Fetterman these days is much more comfortable sitting quite literally with the Republicans. He also apparently never shows up for Democrat-only gatherings like caucus luncheons and in, you know, private meetings like that. He just spends hours and hours with his Senate Republican buddies in their whatever room that they're in, you know, devising better ways to, you know, kill people across the world and steal money from Americans. On top of all of that, his policies are just straight ass. They are some ass. Look at these moments from interviews that he has done with his favorite program, Fox News.
Like Marco Rubio, I think he's done a great job, you know, overall too. It used to not be very controversial to absolutely vote for these kinds of people just because it happens to be the opposite party. You know, right now, our entire party's we're defined by TDS.
I just needed to cut in real quick. A Democratic Party senator unironically dropping a TDS is fucking nuts. He's out here like, the party has Trump derangement syndrome, brother. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Fetterman sounds like your weird uncle at the family barbecue, right? Just complaining and whining about trans people and their Trump derangement syndrome and all these woke liberals. He's throwing his support behind this rabid Republican Party, and that's not only all he does. He also actively shits on the Democrats, too, all the time.
It's like a marriage of the Palestinian, the anti-ICE, the abolish ICE, and now turning it in to like an orgy of socialism here. And that's sad. You know, Platner, he's already announced that he's an avowed communist. He's made that statement and he put that online. Now he's going to be the Democratic nominee.
Fetterman is attacking Platner here because he's scared of Platner, right? Platner is everything that Fetterman isn't, right? He's actually seemingly genuine in his ideology and actually believes in these progressive causes that he preaches, unlike old Benedict Arnold over here. Now, having said that, there is always this associated risk with supporting candidates like Platner who say they are progressive and how they'll have all these great policies and worldviews and ideas and all this stuff. But then there's these red flags, like in his case, he worked for Blackwater and has a pretty questionable tattoo. But here's the thing. Platner seems genuine, right? He's addressed these controversies and he uses his platform to speak about his ideas. And that's why Maine voters don't really give a shit. The guy is insanely popular and he just kicked out establishment Chuck Schumer handpicked Janet Mills from the race. Just take a look at this clip from Platner and see what you think.
I also do not know the value of my service. Nobody can explain to me what I did in Ramadi, how that made lives better in Sullivan, Maine. We send young men and women off to take part in horrific violence and to visit horrific violence upon millions of innocent people in these countries. Also, a Raytheon executive can buy a third house.
It is so refreshing to see this kind of language coming from someone who has actively served as an actual Marine, right? Someone who was there, dedicated years of their life to the military, to then look back on it, internalize it, think about it, and understand that, what the fuck was all that for? Right? Who did I help? Right? What was this for? Right? That's growth, right? That's understanding. That's something that John Fetterman could never understand. Except maybe in the physical sense. The guy is huge. But not only does Platner recognize his own personal past and talk about that, but he also addresses the systemic issues that we are facing here in America, right? Attacking the system itself, right? And how the system of capitalism is inherently driven to extort the working class and generate profit for, not everyday working people, but instead for the capital-owning class.
The system that we live in, it isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as it was intended to. It is a system built by policies passed by establishment politicians that are meant to enrich the ultra-wealthy on the backs of the working people of this country. That's what it was meant to do, and it is doing it swimmingly.
You don't see many Democrats actually attacking the system. Right? Standing with labor and all of these policies is really popular. It's immensely popular, in fact. The most popular politicians in the country, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran Mamdani, they all stand with labor, right? And it's because, think about it, most Americans are working class people, and they want people who are standing up for them. It kind of sounded like Seinfeld right there. It's actually giving people something to vote for instead of constantly trying to have people vote against the Republicans, right? That's been the Democratic Party messaging for years. The Republicans are so bad. Donald Trump is so bad. We have to stop Donald Trump. We have to, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Republicans suck. We know they suck. We get it, right? And I do at some point get it, right? We do have to vote against the Republicans. They are a nefarious force for the entire planet, right? They are horrendously awful. Their policies hurt so many people around the world and here at home, right? I get it. But you can't generate so much momentum by just being like, they're bad, we're good, vote for us. Tell us why you're good. Give us something to vote for. And that's what politicians like Graham Platner, like AOC, like Zoran, like Bernie, like Ilhan Omar, like Rashida Tlaib, all of these, I could go on, right? But that's what these people are actually doing, giving us something to vote for. And that is really important nowadays. But I think that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. If you like what you saw in this video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to US Democratic Socialists for more good news like this. It would really mean a lot to us. And also, don't forget to comment. I would love to hear your thoughts about this and more. So do all that good stuff down below and have a great day. I'm Iago Lashua. Goodbye.